Welcome, beautiful women of purpose. I'm Tanisha Woolley, certified life and soul transformation coach for faith driven women who want to unlock the power and the strategy of their God given purpose to increase their income and accelerate their leadership impact. And you are walking into the journey in 10. This is a new segment that I have created as kind of a sacred space for all of us purpose driven women to gather together early in the morning before the busyness of the day really pulls at us and takes us in many different directions. I want this to be a space where we meet here and can be intentional about grounding ourselves in the truth because we know that if we are not intentional in grounding ourselves, the noise of the world, and there is so much going on right now in the world, will try to determine our worth, our value, and the direction that we're going in for the day, and ultimately pull us off path for the purpose that God has for us. So, this is really a space where we can get honest with God and ourselves. And today we're talking about something that has touched, I believe, every single one of us at some point in our journey, and that is the fear of being seen. And not just seen for what we do, the position, the title, the role that we have, but I'm talking about being truly seen for the women that we are at our core. Because let's be honest, there are several of us walking around high functioning, leading others, very successful, and yet we are hiding parts of ourselves because somewhere along the journey, fear has crept in and said, "You're too much." Or maybe it said, "You're not enough." Or maybe it said, don't be too visible. Don't be too emotional. Don't be too loud. Don't be too spiritual. Nobody wants to hear all that God stuff. So if fear has been holding you hostage, or if hesitation has kept you circling the same mountain year after year, and if you have been asking God to move this mountain out of your way, but deep down you're afraid to move with Him, then this is your invitation. This is a message for you, sis, to break the cycle today. So, today we're going to talk about how to walk boldly in the rest of 2025 with courage, with clarity, and with some holy fire so that we are walking out our purpose because again, there is so much going on in the world today that this is not a time or a moment to play small. This is the time to activate and start walking in divine obedience. Even if our knees are shaking, even if our voice is pitchy, whatever it is, this is the time to move forward. And so I want to ask you a question that has stirred in my heart not too long ago, and that really got me thinking about this. And that question is, how many blessings, relationships, opportunities, breakthroughs have been delayed? And not because God has said no, but because fear has whispered to you, what if you fail? So, what opportunities have slipped by this year already in 2025 that because the inner critic of fear has been louder than your desire or your motivation or your sense of urgency to move forward, where has that been louder? Today, I want to walk through that and I want to go through some reflection questions to really get us to dig deeper to overcome this spirit of fear. Because fear is tricky. It's not always loud. Sometimes it disguises itself. It doesn't always show up as this big, scary moment of terror or it's frightening. Sometimes it shows up in statements like, I don't think I'm ready yet. Sometimes it whispers behind procrastination or perfectionism or people pleasing. And it convinces you that your comfort is safer than your calling. But here's the truth: you weren't created to play it safe, you were created to walk in faith. And walking by faith, there's nothing about that that is comfortable because faith will always demand movement before clarity. Yep. So before you know all the things, it's going to require you to take a step. So if you are waiting for everything to feel secure, you will constantly stay in a state of being spiritually shrinking. Sorry. And this is really your opportunity to break ground in courage. And I know a lot about that, especially in this moment. And so I want to be transparent with you guys for a second and just talk to you about one of the biggest fears that I have had for years. And recently, in the last month, I've just been convicted to just have the courage to overcome it. And it's not the fear of failure, it's the fear of visibility. Yep, this right here, being on video, going live, putting my face and my voice out there. Even though I know that my purpose and my calling is to be a teacher, speaker, and a coach, it still gives me enormous anxiety. And I'm constantly thinking, what will people think? What kind of message will I have to say? What if I stumble over my words? Would anybody listen? And honestly, it still does. You know, I'm not sitting up here perfect, but in my own journey and through my own personal coaching and therapy, I've come to realize that my fear cannot be louder than my calling. And this will be the same mountain for you to conquer too. Answering your calling will often require you to step into places that make you feel wildly uncomfortable. They make you feel unqualified. They make you feel exposed 100%. And you will want to run away. But feelings are not facts, and God deals in facts, right? So, in order for me to move to the next level and to walk into the space that God has called me to build, I've had to confront the very thing that has become the barrier to my growth. And behind the fear, I realized it was hiding. And if we want to get all the way real, it wasn't just hiding from others, because I don't even know some of you all yet, but it was hiding from the magnitude of what God has placed inside of me. And so, spending time with God, He had to remind me that this isn't about being perfect, it's about being present. As you guys have just heard my phone going off in the background. And the next level really requires me to stop avoiding. So, in order to not continue to circle around the mountain and trying to convince God that there is absolutely another way besides me doing this whole video thing, I decided to face it and to show up anyway. Scared, shaky voice, heart racing. And so going live, it's become a little bit easy, but it's not easy. It's not comfortable for me. But I've decided that my obedience has to be more important than my image. Because somebody on the other side of this live needs the freedom that I'm fighting for and I'm continuing to fight for. So just know, when you like and engage with these comments and me showing up, it's not about me being perfectly healed. It's about me being faithful. So when you engage, you are encouraging me. You're reminding me that the message that God has given me matters, that it is so much more bigger than me, and I have to get out of my own way, that it's about impact, it's about purpose. And you all are helping me stay in the room with the very thing that once absolutely terrified me. And now, I'm working through it. But it's absolutely worth it if just one woman finds the courage to say yes through my obedience. So today I want to ground us in a scripture that talks about fear that really helps me. And that's 2 Timothy 1:7. And that scripture says, "For God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and a sound mind." And this is so crucial when we talk about fear, because there is a difference between being fearful or having a moment of fear about something versus a spirit of fear. that 100% controls your decisions and prevents you from acting. So if the scripture says that God has not given us a spirit of fear, then that spirit of fear is not ours to keep. And when we engage in the spirit of fear, we often see it as a sign that of being disqualified or being not enough or not being good at something that God says that we can do. And that is your very sign that you are on the edge of your next level. And that's exactly where the enemy wants to keep you. He wants to keep you stuck, believing in succumbing to that spirit of fear. Right at the door, never opening that door, never knocking, never seeking, never asking for God to carry you. So I want us to pause and look at 3 reflection questions together. So grab your journal, get your coffee, if you need it early in the morning like me, and let's dive into these. So question number 1, what has fear convinced me to avoid? Maybe it's public speaking. Maybe it's asking for that promotion. Maybe it's setting boundaries. Maybe it's having an honest conversation with a family member. Maybe it's launching a podcast. Maybe it's writing a book. What is it for you? Because fear often dresses itself up as procrastination, but really, it's a form of protection. Because your nervous system is trying to protect you from this sense of risk that it thinks is going to be dangerous. But the truth of the matter is that growth always requires some level of risk. Number 2, where am I still hiding where I know God has called me to be seen? Are you showing up fully as the woman that God made you to be? Or are you showing up in spaces and places as the version that will be more comfortable for someone else? So this kind of hiding isn't always visible to us. Sometimes showing up in the version that someone else wants us to be means showing up with a lack of emotional capacity and being open to opportunities. Sometimes it's spiritual. When we know that we should be convening with God more, but we let everything else take priority on our to-do list and we avoid it. And the truth is, hiding always delays destiny. And that's why we keep circling that mountain, because God doesn't change his mind about our purpose or our calling. So it will always come back. Number 3, what would I shift in my life if I showed up anyways? What would change if you stopped waiting for the perfect timing or waiting for confidence or for external approval or validation? And you just decided that obedience was enough? Because the truth of the matter is, obedience is enough. All we have to do is take the obedient first step, and God will give us guidance on the next step, and then one after that, and so on. God doesn't give us the whole plan. He doesn't say, Tanisha, here you go. I've laid out your whole life for you, and I want you to know everything. He only gives us the first step, and he wants our hearts to be willing to depend on him. And so today, I want us to declare, I was created to do hard things with holy courage, not alone. And I will not let fear shrink my purpose. I choose to move forward, even afraid. And to anchor us in this next level that we're going into, being right on the edge, I want us to create a faith over fear commitment letter. And I want you to write this letter. I want you to name the area of fear that has been calling the shots, the area that has completely kept you in chains from moving into something that you know that you want to try. And then what would you do if you had courage instead? And then I want you to pray over it. Ask God to just open up your heart and give you some bold steps. Put it in a place where you'll see it daily and then speak life over it daily. Because you need to give the woman that you are becoming something bold to stand on. You need to remind her every day of who God is calling you to be. So if this message stirred something into you today, I want you to drop a fire in the comments and say, I choose faith. If you are in a season where you're battling fear, especially the fear of being seen, the fear of judgment, the fear of not being enough, I want you to know that you are not alone. There are hundreds of thousands and millions of women that have been in your spot. And I want you to live your courage out loud. because God doesn't call the most comfortable, He calls the most surrendered. So, just like me and all those thousands of women who've experienced that same thing, we are committing to being surrendered and stretched and showing up anyways in that hard space. And I pray that you do the same. So grab my Faith Over Fear reflection guide. It's linked in the comments if you want to go deeper. If you're watching us on other platforms, please head over to YouTube and like and subscribe the channel so that we can grow this movement. And if you feel like you want somebody to stand with you and walk through this, please reach out to me and book a clarity call, because your voice is needed, your gifts are necessary, your presence is powerful, and you were not made to hide. You were made to rise. So until next time, keep growing, keep glowing, and becoming the woman that you were made to be.